Hello, welcome to our Bloomberg workshop on how to best prepare for a technical interview. My name is Yamale Joseph, and I'm a campus recruiter for Bloomberg Engineering.
And I'm Rachel Xu, and I'm a software engineer at Bloomberg working on our instant messaging application called Instant Bloomberg, or IB for short.
To start, we're looking for a few main things when it comes to our evaluation of you as a software engineer. First, communication of your thought process and problem-solving ability. Are you able to communicate why you're doing what you're doing? Are you able to understand the details of a problem and devise correct, efficient solutions, adapt to new parameters, and consider edge cases? Also, your understanding of CS fundamentals. Do you know the basics, mainly around data structures and algorithms? We also look at your drive and willingness to learn. Do you have a passion to learn new things and a passion to understand and learn from your mistakes? More specifically, we are evaluating 4 main areas: data structure knowledge, algorithm knowledge, problem-solving skills, and communication skills. And we will talk more about these throughout the presentation today. The interview will probably begin with a resume walkthrough. We will talk about past projects and experiences. Remember, be familiar with everything on your resume. We will then transition into a hands-on working and talking through technical coding exercise. Questions will be about data structures and algorithms. We will want you to construct a solution to the problem you were given. This is very much a practical interview, and you'll have to write code in your preferred language. Normally, we will start the interview off with a resume walkthrough. So let's talk through this. This is a critical component of the interview and helps set the tone for the interview. It allows us to get insight into your background, your interests, and passions. You should be able to discuss all of your experiences in detail. Anything on your resume is open for discussion. So with that said, practice. Don't just skip over it. It is an important part of the interview. Refresh your memory on older projects, internships, or research experiences. Have a structured approach when talking about these things. Think it through, starting with the problem, the idea, your implementation, the result, and ending with looking back. What could have been done differently? If you're talking about a group project, focus on your specific contributions. Some questions to consider as you prepare for this portion of the interview: can you talk about the languages and technologies you used and why? What were some of the technical challenges that you faced when working on the project? What would you have done differently now that you have more experience? After the resume review, we will dive into the technical portion. Let's talk about what is actually included in the technical interview.
When it comes to the technical question portion of the interview, you really want to have a plan of attack. And this may be different for everybody, so do what works for you. But what we have is just a nice starting point. So step 1, you really want to make sure you understand the problem. So listen to what the interviewer is saying, ask clarifying questions if you need to, and a good practice is really to restate the problem to make sure that you and the interviewer are on the same page. And actually, in fact, asking clarifying questions is encouraged. It really helps show that you are critically thinking about the problem. Then, as you start to brainstorm, start with a solution and work towards a complete design. It's okay if it's inefficient, it's okay if it's incomplete, just voice out your thoughts. Writing pseudocode or talking out a solution with the interviewer before you actually start coding will definitely help. And just as a note, our interviews are language agnostic, so you can use whatever language you are most comfortable with working through these problems. And finally, think about edge cases and discuss runtime with your interviewer. But remember, this is one approach to working through a technical interview. Feel free to amend it to fit your style of interviewing. So I really want to emphasize the communication portion of the interviewing. This really helps showcase your problem solving and critical thinking when you communicate through it with your interviewer. A couple ways to do this includes asking clarifying questions and explaining the pros and cons of your proposed solution. This really shows that you're thinking about the problem in depth and will show your understanding of solid programming foundations. And just remember that interviews are meant to be collaborative, so definitely talk with your interviewer on these things. some more specific questions that you can ask. Ask about edge cases or proposed edge cases. Think about how you are receiving this data, what is the input, and think about what the output should be. And finally, is size and memory a concern, speed, other things like that that might help for efficiency in your solution. So as you probably have heard many times, the technical interview questions are generally based around data structures and algorithms. So here are some more specific things to think about when preparing for these aspects of the interview. If you've taken classes before, go through your notes. They're a great starting point. For data structures, you really want to know the common usage in applications. Think about runtimes for operations, insertions, deletions, access. Is it O of n? Is it O of 1? Think about the pros and cons of each data structure applied to a specific situation. For algorithms, be familiar with your searches, sorts, recursion, different implementations. Focus on the strengths and weaknesses of the algorithms and make comparisons, again, in specific situations. You also want to be very familiar with time complexities. Think about your big O notations like O of n, n log n. And additionally, for specific data structures, you want to know your arrays, linked lists, binary trees, binary search trees, graphs, stacks, queues, heaps, and hash tables. You also want to be prepared for an object-oriented design question that might require you to create your own class with various functions and structures included. If you only remember one thing from today's presentation, remember this. Interviews should be interactive and collaborative, even if you may be doing most of the talking. So remember, the interviewer only knows what you say aloud, and it's okay to voice incomplete thoughts. Think of this almost like a brainstorm. You know, the interviewer was in your shoes once, they know the nerves, so really just connect to the interviewer as a human being. They are there to help you, not to trick you. Listen to what hints and guides they're giving you, and definitely incorporate those into your solution. The real goal here is to reveal how you think through a problem, and we definitely don't expect you to get the perfect answer, especially not in the first try. And if you don't know anything, admit it, but take your best shot. So usually if I want to ask a candidate a question about a binary search tree, I'll ask if they know what that is. And if they don't, I'll either switch the question or try to explain it to them in basic terms and see if they can run through it. So it's okay to not know anything, just admit it and try your best.
Now that we got through a lot of the technical piece of the interview, let's chat through some other helpful pieces of advice. Whatever company you're interviewing for, it's important to research them. Understand basically what the company is about, and then come up with some questions you have about the company and the role. Here are some questions that you can ask during the interview process. How would you describe the company culture? What would a typical day or week for someone in this role look like? What's your favorite part of working at the company? But these are not the only questions. Think about anything you are truly curious about and ask those type of questions. Remember, the interview is a two-way street.
So to conclude, we just spoke about a lot of different things, and it's going to take time for you to digest all of it and be prepared for the technical interview. But the best way is definitely to put in the time and just practice, practice, practice. So some tips and tricks for when it comes to practicing. Try and replicate the interview experience. You know, you want to record yourself, set a timer, practice talking aloud. You might notice that you code differently during a time crunch, or that you're not speaking aloud as much as you think you are. Try doing the problems on paper or on a whiteboard. Here at Bloomberg, we utilize HackerRank. You may try to get familiar with that platform. When you're looking at other solutions, try to understand why a specific algorithm or data structure was used and why not another. Practicing with your friends is a great group activity. You get to understand different ways of thinking. And also, we recommend some of the following resources if you do want to practice. There's the Cracking the Coding interview, leetcode.com. You can try medium to hard questions, but don't dismiss the easy ones. They can definitely help with like code cleanliness and things like that. We really want you to be confident and feel prepared for your interview. If we approach you and say, hey, can you interview in like the next 2 weeks, but you don't feel like you're ready, ask your HR to postpone it. There's no problem with doing that. We want you to put your best self forward, and that works the best for us as well.
And lastly, here are even more resources for you to take a look at and utilize as you prepare for the technical interview. Once again, there are so many more than just these, but we have found that these lists have been helpful to individuals in the past. If this is overwhelming and you don't know where to start, we suggest starting with LeetCode and get practicing. Thank you for listening.
And best of luck with the technical interview process.